This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Good evening, race fans, and welcome to coverage of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series, live tonight from Sebring International Raceway in Sebring, Florida. I am James Pike, the voice of Podium Esports, alongside Taylor Burris and Cisco Scaramuza, punching all the buttons in our virtual production trailer is our producer for this evening's broadcast of the finale of Series 2. We've run 6 races across some of North America's best road courses and seen a lot of great action, but how fitting, I think, Taylor Burris, to come near your home in Florida and wrap up the season at one of the most legendary road courses, the home of the 12 Hours of Sebring. Quite frankly, one of the best road courses in the country, hands down.
Oh, I have to agree with you most definitely on that, James. And hello, everyone. Welcome to the beautiful Sebring International Raceway. This track is by far one of the most technical and most difficult courses in the United States and on the west side of Florida in the beautiful Sebring, Florida. This track opened up in 1950, and of course, like James brought out, with the 12 Hours of Sebring, this track is where we will see this great race that we'll see here. And of course, end the race with the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series here. And I gotta say, I'm looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to see who can maybe put on a good show and cap off the season right.
Find out, though it is largely a formality at this point, but we're going to find out who comes away with the grand prize as the series champion tonight and gets their hands on a full day at one of the Porsche Experience Centers in Los Angeles or Atlanta, courtesy of our friends at Porsche North America and the Porsche Club of America, amongst others. So a very, very worthy prize on hand. Billy Smith won the Series 1 title and had a lot of fun with that, and I suspect that the Series 2 champ will have a lot of the same. As we take a look at the point standings here, you see Leo Levesque and John Koch well in control of their spots in first and second. Those very likely won't change, save for the completely unexpected. Meanwhile, though, you go behind them, there are a few good battles to point out amongst the top 20. You have that battle from 3rd through 6th. Leif Peterson, Michael Poldesek, Matthew Kikas, and John Malia, all separated by, I believe, 5 points tops. Those could all change hands this evening. Kenny Brown and Chris Pies are both tied in 10th and 11th on 75 points, and then 1 point separating Brett Holmes and James Huth in 15th and 16th. And I'll add to that, 20th through 23rd, Dewey Kang, Carlos Lopez, David Stewart, and Jonathan Schum are within 3 points of one another. So there are some positions on the totem pole that could change hands just underneath the top, Taylor.
Yeah, and it's going to be a great battle to see who can come out on top with these championship points battles that we have going on here. I mean, I'm really looking forward to seeing what Leif Peterson and Polasek and Kikas and Malia can do, as they will be battling for that final step of the points podium here tonight at Sebring. And we saw each of these drivers throughout the season show dominating points of fashion and good strategy calls in order to get those good finishes that they have shown all season long.
I think it's hilarious that Peterson, Malia, and Kikas are currently right next to each other on the qualifying board as we wrap up the final few bits of the qualifying session before we go racing for 60 minutes here at Sebring. Poldesek currently second on the timesheet as it stands, and we've got just under 3 minutes of qualifying left to go before this field grids up for the final race of Series 2, the final race of this series that has used the 911 RSR, the GTLM or GTE spec car, depending on what your flavor of preferred endurance racing is. But here at Sebring, it doesn't matter because you've also got the 1,000 kilometers of Sebring for the World Endurance Championship. So both forms of big-time endurance racing make their way down here to Florida to compete.
Indeed, they do, and looking forward to seeing what these drivers in these Porsche RSRs do here tonight. Of course, William Levesque is going to try and tie it up all the way and complete the season with winning every single race. He didn't, unfortunately, get every single pole so far this season. He only has an average start of second place and, of course, an average finish of first, so it's quite impressive of what he's been able to do all season long, and he wants to try to cap it off on a high note with another win here tonight.
He has been so good, has he not? To try and go all the way with this and get 7 victories and sweep the season, which would be a record in PCA SRS competition and honestly a bar that we may not see matched for a very, very long time. Levesque with the opportunity to do something really special. And, oh, by the way, first in qualifying as it stands with about a minute and a half left to go. So he's on track for another one of those Fast Track Sims Pole Awards. As we take a look at the track map at Sebring, a lot of different corners. You've got some really tight, twisty technical sections paired up with a significant amount of long straightaways and long apex corners. You think of Sunset Bend, arguably the signature corner of this racetrack, where you are riding the throttle for forever to get back around to the start-finish line, and how much speed you maintain can gain you anywhere from 3, 4, 5, 6, up to nearly a full second, depending on how many tenths you can save.
Don't forget about the hairpin right there, turn 7. Probably one of the most difficult corners, as well as a good place for a lot of great passing opportunities. We may see a couple of drivers trying to take it too wide, even maybe push it a little bit and push it to 3 wide if they wanted to be brave enough to make the pass. But we've seen time and time again how that could also be a danger zone for a lot of drivers. So that would be a key area to keep an eye on here tonight.
That hairpin turn 7 is the hairpin that you'll see after the Big Bend once you come out of the 345 complex, just coming off of the runway. We'll talk about that corner a lot tonight. We'll talk a lot about turn 10 tonight as well. Once you make the run up the Fangio Straight after you complete your run through the hairpin, 10 seems to function in a similar way to 7. It's not quite as tight of an apex, but it definitely has that same sort of funneling effect. It might be a place where we'll have to watch for some action. I suspect we'll see more than a few side-by-side battles in those two corners, and maybe turns 13 and 16 as well. We've seen a few passes set up there in the past, and I suspect we may see a little bit more tonight. But at this time, it is time to take you to your starting grid for this final race of Series 2 of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series, which once again sees William Levesque take the pole with the time of 1 minute and 55.716 seconds, and he is once again your winner of your Fast Track Sims Pole Award. It's $50 along with bragging rights courtesy of Fast Track Sims. And if you're not familiar with Fast Track Sims and the high-quality simulator complex they produce, you can visit them at fasttracksims.com for more information. Michael Polisek will start from second. Gresham Wagner rolls off in the 3rd position. John Coke, second in points, starts 4th on the grid tonight. 5th belongs to James Patak. John Malia will start from 6th. Leif Peterson will roll off from 7th. Matthew Keek is 8th. Remember that those 3 are in an impressive points battle of their own for 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th, along with Polisek. And then Liam Radzitis and Christopher Pies round out your top 10.
Starting in the 11th position will be Kenny Brown, followed by Michelle Levesque in 12th. Doug Metzel will start in the 13th position alongside Dewey Kang in 14th. Clifton Lipple will start in the 15th position alongside Charles Yao in 16th, with Carlos Lopez starting 17th. Michael Knighton will start in the 18th position, with Alberto Fonseca starting 19th, and Aaron Benoit in 20th.
James Craig starts from 21st this evening. 22nd will be where Jonathan Schum begins his race. David Stewart starts in 23rd tonight. 24th belongs to the 003 of Joseph Stiefel. Saibal Banyopadhyay starts from 25th. 26th is where Bruce Robinson will begin tonight's race. Jonathan Waltman starts at 27th. 28th belongs to Michael Evans. Andrew Elsom rolls off from the 29th position, and 30th will be Francois Grayling.
31st will go to Jonathan Patterson, with Mark Hofferitz in 32nd. Colin Thomas will start in 33rd, with Brett Holmes in the 35th position, and Donald Binkley as well in 34th.
That rounds out your starting grid for tonight's finale of Series 2 of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series from Sebring International Raceway. The 7th and final race of the season, which takes place at Sebring, a track that traces its history back to even before the 1950s. This used to be an old U.S. military installation and a place where they flew more than a few planes out of, and it was converted into a racetrack in the 1950s and has become one of the premier circuits for endurance racing in the United States ever since. This is the Grand Prix layout at Sebring that will be running tonight, so it's 3.74 miles, 6.02 kilometers in length, 17 turns. We're going to race from the dusk to the evening. Current in-sim time is just about 20 minutes after 7 Eastern Daylight Time on iRacing Day, May 15th, 2019. It is a partly cloudy sky we're working with, 76 degrees Fahrenheit, your air temperature. Track temp a little bit warmer at 83 degrees Fahrenheit. Winds to the north at 2 miles an hour, so just about nothing, and humidity sitting at 58%. Let's not forget that the pit stops also are going to play a factor into this, Taylor, and could shake things up a little bit, and fuel conservation might play more into this than you would think. This is a place where you can really burn up some fuel going down some of these straightaways, so we'll see how these drivers enter. I think of Sunset Bend in particular is the one, and turn 1-2, where you can really save some gas if you hit those spots correctly.
Yes, and make sure you hit those marks completely through. One driver who we'll have to keep an eye on who's been really good with fuel conservation is Leif Peterson in that 913 Porsche. He's been doing quite well all season long with that kind of strategy and has been able to pull off some very good runs. Let's see what he can do tonight as he tries to finish in the third position in the points tonight.
Also remind you before we go green flag racing, the setups for tonight's race, the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series, are graciously provided by Tanner McCullough of Setups for iRacing. Join the Setups for iRacing Discord server for quality iRacing setups. Work their way towards that very long back straightaway here into Sunset Bend. Coming through the final few corners before that now are the race leaders. One more reminder of the point situations that we need to pay attention to before this race goes green flag racing. William Levesque and John Cook have first and second all but locked out, barring the unexpected. Leif Peterson, Michael Polisek, Matthew Kikas, and John Malia are within 5 points of one another going into this final race for third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. So the back half of the top 5 in points all to play for. Same goes for 10th and 11th. Kenny Brown and Chris Pies are tied on 75. Brett Holmes and James Huth are within 1 point of one another. Holmes leads Huth by 1 in 15th. Huth sits in 16th at the moment. And then your last major battle in the points, Jimmy Can, Carlos Lopez, David Stewart, Jonathan Shue, 20th through 23rd, all separated by 2 points. So we've got places that can change hands, and those will be the battles that you want to pay attention to this evening. We're glad to have you with us here on the iRacing Esports Network. One more chime in Series 2 of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series as we get our final green flag of the season. We're underway from Sebring, and we take off into turn 1. Pretty solid start for everybody up in front, save 4. I believe that might have been James Patak who struggled a little bit, and it backed up Leif Peterson just to change, and they all slide their way through that very, very wide turn 1, but they've got to funnel down to get into turn 2 because it narrows up very quickly.
It does indeed. As they're now coming through turn 2, you see Wagner all over the back bumper of Michael Polisek as they're coming through the turns 3 and 4 section of the course. Before they get to the big bend, Wagner tries to take a peek to the outside but can't quite make it work. He's going to have to try and wait as they make the run to the hairpin.
They come through Big Bend for the first time towards this hairpin, and Levesque has got control of this, but Polisek already playing defense on Gresham Wagner, who nearly missed his opportunity to block John Koch, and Koch just about got to the inside of the 5, but not before the door closed down ever so slightly to keep him at bay. So Koch will sit in 4th. Wagner's going to open up a gap a little bit between the 5 and the 997, and they all file single found.
Levesque had a little bit of an off now. That's going to cause Michael Polisek and Gresham Wagner to get to the inside of them as they're now making it into the tower corner, but are able to try to keep it clean. Michael Polisek, your new race leader.
Polisek goes to P1, and a very rare mistake for William Levesque early on in the race. We'll see how he can regroup over the course of the next, 57 minutes. He's got plenty of time to make this up, but Michael Polisek with an opportunity to go to the lead and lead what I believe might be one of his first laps under proper green flag racing this year. I think he might have taken the lead a few times on pit cycles, but Porsche had top 5 speed just about all season long, and there have been more than a few cases where he hasn't gotten the finish that's been indicative of the speed his car has had. He's had issues, he's made mistakes, he's run into other people's problems, so I think he'll certainly take this moment in the sun, no pun intended, as he comes around Sunset Bend and will lead lap 1 of this season finale for the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series.
Top 3 have pulled away. Polasek, of course, your race leader, but here comes Levesque. He takes a peek to the inside as they go into turn 1, while Gresham Wagner looks on in third. John Koch, though, has a little bit of a gap between him. He's got to keep an eye and make sure he tries to keep up with this battle before the top 3 pull away completely. He's got about a second gap between him and our race leader, so he has a little bit of work to do as it comes to the 3, 4, and 5 section.
Which is arguably the tightest section on this course. It's almost impossible to pass, but we might see a pass of the race lead once they get down to the hairpin. Big move down to the bottom for Polasek to block Levesque. But Levesque got a really good run on the outside going to the hairpin. Might be able to stick it and keep it to the outside and then pinch Polasek as they come through the Fangio curves and make their way towards turn 10. And I think that Levesque will get the lead back, and Gresham Wagner might be able to clear Polasek as well for second. And he does, going into the corner.
Great pass by Gresham Wagner, but he got to make sure not to go off track a little bit, which he's able to make sure he does not move him up to the second place. Polasek now back in third position after leading the first lap as they come out of Tower.
Make their way out of Tower and towards the very tricky sort of quick left-right S section here that you find at Sebring. Once you get to this 14, 15, 16 complex through Bishop, just enough to keep you on your toes. You're not turning all that much, but once you get down to 16, you're definitely on the brakes, and you're trying to make sure you set up the angle correctly for your run down the Ullman Straight, which is oh so important. This section of the racetrack, I think, might be the one where corner entry matters the most, because if you can feather the throttle enough, it's a very significant amount of time that you can gain on the competition.
It's also one of those most difficult corners to try to get the power back on the throttle when you're coming out of the Le Mans curve, because it's so difficult. You can easily lose it. I've seen drivers time and time again lose control in that section of the course, but these drivers are able to handle their car properly to get the power down as they go back into turn 1.
The very, very tricky complex that you're right on the edge of the downforce limits that the G-forces provide here with the wings on the back of these Porsche 911 RSRs, and you're sort of riding that lane as we see Adnan Lopez go at it a little bit further back. Also a good battle between Liam Rositas, Matthew Kikas, Kenny Brown, and Chris Pies there for 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th, and I think Michel Levesque and Doug Metzel are also in that group too.
Big group of cars trying their best to get through that section of the course as best they can, but it's just so tight you can't really find a way to put the car where you want in order to make a pass. You kind of have to wait till you get out of the big bend to set up for the hairpin corner, but drivers are being oh so careful through there as still drivers are coming out of there in a great battle between a couple of drivers.
Talked a little bit about Kikas and Pies and company. Oh, big move there from Brown and Kikas, and a bigger move there from Pies, who tried to stick it underneath that number 23 machine of Kenny Brown. It was close, but it wasn't quite enough, and Brown will maintain his spot within the top 10 for the moment as Kikas will try and give chase up the road to get back to Liam Rositas.
A great, very aggressive move by Christopher Pies, but now has to back it down just a little bit as Liam Rositas leads this group in the 8th position. Kikas, who's had a strong run last round at VIR, is definitely wanting to put the pressure down on Liam to get by as they come down the Ullman Straight. Not close enough to make a pass before they get to the Sunset Bend, but he is right there if a small mistake happens for Liam as they're getting ready to finish up the second half of the Ullman Straight.
Kikas begins to try and gain just a bit. Remember that Kikas was one of the drivers who managed to really stretch the fuel at Road America and got a podium out of a car that was about 5th or 6th quickest in the field at best that night. And I wonder if this might be another case and another opportunity for Kikas to try and pull the same fuel conservation strategy to get a good finish one more time. And it would be big too, because he's right in the thick of that battle for 3rd and 5th in points. As you see one car go off the racetrack a little bit, might have been Michel Levesque, I think it was, who came off of turn 1 a little bit wide within this group. But Oliver Zetas, Kikas, Pies, Brown, Levesque, Metzel still in there, and Clifton Lipple not too far behind in the 14th position.
Lipple doing a great job. Already gained one position, not far behind as Aaron Benoit also started in 20th, has gained 5 positions since the drop of the green flag here. About 14 seconds back from the race lead and about 4 or 5 seconds as well back from Clifton Lipple. So he's pretty much in no man's land by himself for a little bit. No pressure from behind, just trying to run his laps, complete his time, and work his way up through the field before the night's over.
We can begin to bounce around this field and look for some of the best battles on track. First good one that I see, you've got Polisek and Coke racing for 3rd and 4th. Jace Batak also in there. Then you've got Malia and Peterson that are pretty close together. Then that group that starts with Rudzitis and goes all the way back to Lipple that we talked about. Then you slide a little bit further back. Good stuff here between Jonathan Schum and Joseph Stiefel. Those two should be side by side going into Bishop. And Fonseca sitting right behind this group as Schum just gets on the brakes and gives up the spot to Stiefel, who will take over 17th. And Fonseca trying to dip his car down underneath that number 97 machine to gain another position. The driver out of the Pacific Northwest region of the PCA. The only driver in this series representing the Seattle region. He's got company, though, in the 914. David Stewart now to his outside as they make their way towards Sunset Bend.
Side by side, Stewart, Fonseca, and then don't forget Jonathan Schum, who goes late into the break in Sunset Bend. He has to wash up just a little bit. Fonseca goes to the bottom of the racetrack and is able to try and complete the pass, as David Stewart also is going to try to look to the inside, but can't quite make it work. He has to follow right behind Jonathan Schum as they come across the line, move Fonseca up into 18th, and then move Jonathan Schum back to 19th. Schum goes back over the attack. Here comes David Stewart on the outside as they go into turn 1.
Stewart went to the outside, and I wonder if he might be trying to set up the pass on the inside going into 2, which is exactly what he'll do. Cross it right over and then overdrive the corner and get the spot right back to Jonathan Schum. So Stewart had that set up all but perfectly and just couldn't quite execute on corner entry into 2 when he had the track position. So he'll have to gather back up and gain that second that he's just lost to Schum to try and earn that 19th position from the 97. A little bit further back, good battle between Stewart now and Waltman and Charlie Yao. James Craig is in there, as is Bruce Robinson, as is Michael Evans. All of them in a pretty good spot, and that's, I'd say, the last major battle pack on track. For the trio of Andrew Elson, Francois Grayling, and Mark Hoffer, 26, 27, and 28.
Tell you what, Jonathan Waltman has made a big gain up. Started 27th, has worked his way up to 21st, and is all over the back bumper of David Stewart as they come out of Tower. He has gained a lot of positions, doing really good, consistent lap times with the cars he is racing against. A little bit slower last time compared to David Stewart, but is definitely putting on the pressure to try to see if he can gain a little bit of time and move himself up into the top 20.
There's so much time to be gained, I think, through the section that they are traveling through right now. That little complex after Bishop 15 and 16, just because you've got the room to create a really wide entrance onto the Ullman Straight. You can just about run any line that you want there. And if you hit it right, that's 2 or 3 tenths a lap almost immediately, as we see David Stewart try to get underneath Alberto Fonseca and instead give up all the track position and bring Jonathan Waltman right to the rear bumper of the 914.
He almost got it and turned him, Fonseca, around through Sunset, but was able to get on the binders and keep him from not making contact. But he has got to do a little bit of work as they go into turn 1. He goes late into the braking zone once again in turn 1. But can't quite get close enough. Here comes Jonathan Waltman, who's watching all this chaos going on as they make the run into turn 2.
Here comes Stewart again, trying to pull the same move on Fonseca that he was unsuccessful with on Schum a lap ago. Managed to hit the corner this time, but didn't carry enough momentum to keep it alongside the 44, so he'll slide back in line and back into 19 as Waltman sits on the heels of the 914 and tries to jump up from the 20th spot. You've also got Charlie Yao and Craig as Stewart made a big move on Fonseca going into the hairpin and finally did get the 44, so Stewart with the position now, but what will Fonseca do going into turn 10?
Going to try to take the crossover move as they go down towards Collier, and he's going to try to make it work, but it's going to be close. Decides not to do it, but here comes Charles Yao on the inside of Jonathan Waltman, and can't quite make it work either for him. He's going to have to back off as they make the run to Tower.
Coming through the tower, a little bit of an easier corner to hit than turns in so far as I'm concerned. But you also have that runoff room that you're going to give up 2 or 3 tenths if you end up running through the dirt on your way towards turn 14, the Bishop Lamont complex, right before you hit the Ullman straight here. And a big move from Yao. Look at Yao, way down on the inside in 15. He sent it way in there, right underneath Jonathan Waltman, and Waltman had absolutely no answer for the attack from the 717. So Yao now up to 20th, Waltman back to 21st, and James Craig now trying to fight off Bruce Robinson for 22nd.
I think Waltman's a little bit shocked about what just happened. He's still trying to figure out how in the world Charles Yao was able to get to the inside of him and make that pass and make it stick. So a great pass for him as we watch that replay. He just dives it in there full send here tonight and just was able to make it stick. That's what's most impressive.
To be fair, one of the best passes I've seen in this series all year long, without question. An incredible move for Yao to get in that deep and make sure that it's stuck without locking up the brakes as we slide to Leif Peterson and go back up towards the top 10. He has got a windshield full of John Malia in the number 8 machine, and those two currently racing for 6th and 7th.
Peterson doing a great job, but needs to get a little bit higher up in the running order in order to hold that 3rd position in the point standing as he sees his competition of Michael Polasek and Gresham Wagner running in 2nd and 3rd. He has to do something different in order to try to make up that ground. He's currently fighting with another competitor in the points that he is battling with, John Malia, who's running 6th. He's got to find a way, in either through pit stop strategy, which we've seen him do all season and do quite well with, but he's got to do something here also sooner before the pit stops happen.
I think you're right about that. And as we look at the point situation, Wagner is largely a non-factor in this battle for 3rd through 6th. He's about 32 points back of Malia coming into tonight's race, so he's more than anything just stealing points from the rest of these drivers so far as their battle for 3rd through 6th is concerned. But you've got Podolsek and Cook and Patak and Malia all in there. And Patak, sort of the same deal, a little bit further back of Wagner by about 10 points. So not really in this, but if you're stuck behind either one of Wagner or Patak and you're not one of the drivers in that cluster of 4, you need to find a way to get around the drivers that are taking the points from you to have any sort of shot at trying to get P3 on the podium, which I believe right now would go to Podolsek if the race were to end as it stands.
Yeah, Leif Peterson needs to try to find a way to dig deep here as he is trying to find a way to get, as they come out of Big Bend, to get to the back bumper of John Malia, but just is not running that very good consistent times. Malia ran last time a 57.19 compared to Peterson's 57.25, so just shy of a tenth of a second separates these two drivers as they come out of the hairpin. Peterson was able to gain a little bit of ground, but Malia able to just pull away off corner exit.
Peterson's got to find a way to go all the way up to Podolsek. That's the key. That's the man that he's racing for 3rd in points.
And another Ask the Booth question. What is our daily driver? How about you take that one off first, James?
Daily driver currently is a Toyota RAV4. It is red. It has been affectionately named Clifford the Big Red Rav. I may or may not have watched a fair share of PBS cartoons when I was little, so thought that was largely appropriate. So we'll see how long Clifford sticks around. Plenty of cargo space. It's been handy for all the moves that I've been making as of late, but not the worst thing in the world, I will admit, though, to be fair, also probably not as good as a Boxster or a Cayman or a Panamera or a 911 would be as a daily driver. So consider those the sort of poster cars that we're working towards over in this part of the world. Taylor Burris, what about you?
I gotta say I drive a 2011 Chevrolet Cruze. I gotta say, even though it's not nearly as good as compared to driving one of these beautiful Porsches, whether it be one of the 911s or the Caymans, but it gets me from point A to point B. It does a great job. Don't have any really fancy name for this car compared to some of my older cars that I used to drive.
Fair enough, and let's also not forget that our producer, Cisco Scamuzo, is very particular about his 2018 Subaru Impreza. He's a bit of a Scooby-Doo head, shall we say, and a big-time Subaru fan for a long time. So decent amount of cargo space in that thing with a hatch as well, but I don't know if it's got enough cargo space to compete with the RAV4, to be fair. But it does have a pretty solid engine and a pretty solid transmission, and of course the pedigree, but still also probably not as fun as a 911 or a Cayman or a Boxster. Granted, we may be biased, but I think that's largely understandable here, as we've got Malia and Peterson, your closest battle within the top 10. Everybody has already managed to string themselves out nicely. It's at least a 1 second gap between everybody in the top 5. So we'll slide a little bit further back to 12th and 13th. That's where Clifton Lipple and Doug Metzel are racing for position. And as they work their way towards Tower and towards Bishop and Lamont, we'll see what kind of battle they can put on.
Coming out of Tower Corner right now, Doug Metzel gets a great run. Has a little bit of damage to that wing of his Porsche, but still not slowing him down as he tries to get close enough to the inside of Clifton Lipple as they're making their way towards the Lamont Kern. Right, we see Lipple get a little bit loose through there. That's going to cause Doug Metzel to try to gain a little bit of ground as he's getting more loose right there coming out of Lamont, and is able to keep it on the power down and keeps going. But here comes Doug Metzel to the inside down the Ullman Straight. He has the momentum on his side. Let's see who will be the first one to let each other by as they go into Sunset. It's going to be a close battle. There they go. Metzel is able to overtake, but will he be able to hold on? No, he won't. He's going to lose control, spin the car, almost drifted through Sunset. Don't really see that. Oh, they unable to keep it going. Loops it around. Has to hopefully make no contact with any other drivers. Backs it out of the racing groove and continues on.
So Metzel with a similar sort of issue to what he had at Road America a little bit earlier on in the season, and was running around in turn 1 and managed to get on the gas a little bit too quickly and spin himself out. So no damage to his machine. Very particularly brilliant little paint job on that car too. But for now, he's going to have to climb his way back up from the 15th position in that 398 machine as he is stuck behind Joseph Seifel in the 003, working their way through Big Bend towards the hairpin.
It was, I would say, if he was able to make the drift work good, he would have been able to have a good score out of that. But unfortunately, he's going to go late into the braking zone, into the hairpin. Seifel just lets him through, but as he continues on, move him back up into the 14th position.
Almost like our friends at the Esports Drifting Association, I suppose. Was Doug Metzel there for a little bit, but he'll climb his way back up through. He'll probably have a good charge here. Dewey Kang is next in line in the 13th spot, and a really good run for Kang on a night where he could certainly use one to bolster his case to jump up a little bit in the point standings and make sure that he locks down that 20th position outright. He and Metzel are currently 19th and 20th in the series standings, and Metzel has got 7 points on Kang, so Kang definitely needs a little bit more of a gap to try and close the points gap to Metzel tonight, but certainly doesn't mind seeing the 398 in his rearview mirrors, though Metzel will charge hard and is going to get a very good run down the Ullman Straight towards Sunset Bend.
He's going to get a great run as they're making the run down to Sunset Bend. Who's going to be the first one to break? Metzel on the inside. And we see also Dewey King holding strong but cannot make it work. He's going to let Doug Metzel by, move him back up to where he starts. Now he's got to try and find a way to get back up to Clifton Lipple and Michelle Levesque.
A little bit more work for Metzel to try and tackle. He's got about 9.5 seconds to get from the front bumper of Kang to the rear bumper of Lipple. So a bit of an odyssey he's going to have to go on for the next few laps. And as he begins his journey towards Lipple, we'll remind you that if you want to get behind the wheel and join the fun in PCA Sim Racing, you can learn how to get started by visiting simracing.pca.org and clicking on the two-part series titled Getting Started in PCA Sim Racing at the bottom of the website. And there's still time to sign up for 3-hour endurance race and Series 3 that will feature the 911 GT3 cars. Visit simracing.pca.org for more information as Metzel gets into it with Kang. Those two tangle coming out of the hairpin, and Metzel will go around again as Kang loses some spots to both Aaron Benoit and I believe Joseph Stiefel.
And Doug Metzel will unfortunately take it to the pit road and get it towed. So that's going to be not a good run for him, as his day might be done here tonight.
May well be, but that also might be of huge benefit to Dewey Kang, who now sits 15 positions clear of Metzel and would gain a decent amount of points on Metzel. Don't know if it would be enough with the PCA scoring system to take over that 19 spot in points, but it certainly opens the door for that now if Metzel is unable to continue for the rest of this race.
A couple of other cars have also come down pit road. It looks like Jonathan Schum is down on pit road as well. He must have had an incident somewhere out on track. We'll try to see if we can find that. But looking back in the top 10 for that battle between Leif Peterson and John Malia, Malia has pulled away from Peterson and actually has caught up to the back bumper of James Patak and is doing a lot of pressuring on the back bumper of that Porsche. And I say Patak is doing quite a great job of holding on and not letting the pressure get to him.
This would be very, very big for Malia, who came in the last driver of the quartet, fighting for his third. About 5 points back of Leif Peterson was Malia coming into this evening, so he certainly needs a few more spots on Peterson, but if he can get around Patak, who is well out of the battle for third through fifth and sixth and all, it definitely would help his case a huge amount, but he's got work to do to clear that 721 of Patak.
He does indeed, but he's got to do a little bit of trying to find a different way to get around him as they're coming up to the tower corner. And Malia laid onto the braking, almost misses, overshoots the corner, but is able to keep it going. Patak is able to get a good exit off the corner as he now makes the run up towards Le Mans.
They make their way through Bishop to Le Mans and to that very, very long almond straight that is show characteristic of Sebring. Everybody winds their way through the final corners, but it's once again the Peach State region going after it against the metropolitan New York region as John Malia and James Patak are all over each other, and Michael Polishek having a bit of a fun battle too, or at least he was for a little bit, but all eyes here will stay on Patak and Malia as they race for fifth and sixth. It's without question the best battle here in the top 10.
Great battle indeed. With a three-car battle, we have Patak leading in the fifth position, Malia chasing in sixth, and Peterson closing in and watching from that seventh position. And so we had a car off right there in front of those three drivers. That was Colin Thomas in the number 16. He was able to hold on to it as Kikas now goes by. Oh, Christopher Pies almost, I believe he made contact right there. He goes into the barricades.
Chris Pies with big trouble coming out of one and nearly clipped. I think that might have been Kenny Brown. Wasn't totally certain, but big issues for Pies here. Actually, it was really in Rodzitas that he missed, but yeah, bit of an issue there for Chris Pies as he tried to save it and actually managed to clear the spun car. I believe that might have been Colin Thomas, but it was his run back onto the track and the catching of the grass and the curb and the difference in the pavements that eventually loosened up his 911.
It did indeed, and surprisingly no other drivers got involved with that incident other than that. So unfortunate though for Christopher Pies, who was having a great run here tonight.
Pies was having a good run, and that will be to Kenny Brown's benefit. Brown is the driver that Pies is going head-to-head with for 10th and 11 in this Series 2 final point standings. And now that should, I think, give Brown the chance to try and get back after it. Brown's already made one pit stop, so he might be running long. And Brown nearly gets into it, and he's going to spin in Sunset Bend as soon as we talk about him. So, I don't know. Maybe we need to just sit on somebody here and make sure we don't talk about the drivers all fighting for points positions, because it seems like everywhere we turn, they're slipping and sliding all over the place, and I almost wonder if the pressure of the points battle might be getting to them.
Another driver who's on the move right now is actually James Patak. He's caught the back bumper of John Koch, who's currently running second, but here comes Malia to the inside as they come off the Sunset Bend. Gets a great exit off of there and has closed into the back bumper of Patak as they go into turn one.
And now it's about a four-car train. Koch, Patak, Malia, and Peterson. And a reminder that Malia and Peterson are in that third through fifth battle. Koch has largely got second locked up. It would take something miraculous for him to lose that position in the final points battle, but all pretty well and good for the 997 at the moment. Can't say the same for Patak, though, who ran very wide in Sunset Bend that last time by, and may well have opened up the opportunity for Malia to race alongside the 721. Let's see what kind of entry he takes into one. If he can get a good run off of here, he might have a chance to make the pass in turn two.
Yeah, they did make contact into the hairpin. Malia as well as James Pataki made serious contact going into hairpin. Malia just couldn't get on the brakes quick enough, just put the bumper to James Pataki. That's going to send them both back and move Leif Peterson up into the top 5 now. So these drivers are getting a little bit aggressive right through here as the closing stages as we approach the halfway.
Towards halfway, we approach pit stops, and Peterson now would be the one to benefit from all of this. Peterson fighting Polasek for points, and Peterson's got a ways to go. He needs about 7 seconds and change to get up the road and get Polasek for third. Polasek would finish third in points as it stands. Peterson would be fourth in the final point standings as it stands. So some work to be done, but certainly not going to complain about what happened in front of him just a few corners ago.
A little bit of sportsmanship as they come off of Lamar corner curve right there. Malia gives the position back over to James Pataki as they go down the Ullman Straight. As Malia now slots back in and moves back behind Pataki as they go into Sunset Bend. So very good sportsman, a very gentleman-like driver for John Malia to do.
Yeah, James Huth rule, I suppose, as we've seen it play out many a time here in Series 2 of the PCA SRS, as we have another Ask the Booth question to tackle. And pretty good one from our friend at the Porsche Club of America, Jim Sebring, who asked, if James Huth won the Gentleman Driver Award for Series 1, who should get the nod for Series 2? Whew. Whew.
Well, John Malia had put on a good effort to try to get that award with giving that position back over for after causing that incident, so I have to put my money on him tonight.
Just for tonight, you're not wrong. The problem is that we've seen something like that, I think, in just about every race where a driver's made a mistake or gotten into another driver, had some sort of error, and managed to recognize the mistake and pull their car back and give the affected driver the track position once again. So credit, I think, more... I almost wonder if the cheat answer is to just say, give James Huth more credit because Huth set the precedent in Series 1 that has been carried over into Series 2 and been carried through very, very well across all drivers, not just with Huth, not just with Malia, but just about everyone in Series 2 of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series.
Approaching the pit stop cycle here and about to begin. Some of the backmarker cars have already completed their pit stops. A couple of cars such as Mark Huffritz, it's coming off. Colin Thomas is coming off pit road. Several other drivers as well. But several drivers are also going to be coming down as far as our front runners, so we'll have to keep an eye and see what they do.
William Levesque is going to make his one pit stop of the evening with just over 40 seconds to go before we hit the halfway point of this race officially, and Christian Wagner and Michael Polasek will follow suit. So the top 3 are in. John Koch is in. Leif Peterson is in. The top 5 all in. Here comes Pataki. Here comes Malia. I suspect Kikis will come in as well. We'll see what Radzitis does. He'll be the next driver in line. He'll come in, so it could well be the whole of the top 10. Clifton Lipple is next in line. We'll see if he comes in for service to make it a clean sweep. Get all the top 10 here in on this lap, the 15th lap they've completed, or worked rather, here at the Sebring.
Yeah, a couple more drivers. Joseph Stiefel as well has come down pit road. Dewey Kang. See what Charles Yao will do as well. He's coming off a Sunset Bend right now. Let's see if he will come down pit road, which he will, as our race leader, William Levesque, is going to come off pit road now, along with the rest of the field that has came down pit road with him. Now let's see how well the pit stop cycle will cycle through once they come back across the line.
Good. Pretty much everybody down pit road for service on that lap. Not really any deviations in pit strategy. It was get in, get your fuel, be done with it, and shake everything out as the crow flies. So it will be Levesque, Wagner, Polasek, Cook, and Radzitis coming out of pit road. But hearing that Liam Radzitis missed his pit box and had to come through pit road and still has to come in for service the next time by. So Radzitis is going to lose that track position pretty significantly when he comes down pit road once again after this lap is completed.
That's going to be very critical of him. He might not have enough fuel to finish this lap, so that could be a lot more positions lost, even a lap loss as well for him. So I have to keep an eye and see what Radzitis can do.
As one car loses it behind. I think that might have been one of the red machines. I think it was Jonathan Patterson in the 63. Spun around. Got a lot of red cars here between Kenny Brown and Matthew Kikas and Liam Radzitis a little bit. All drivers sporting some form of reddish paint scheme, but it was really, really close there all around as Radzitis makes his way through Le Mans. We'll watch and wait to see what the 05 car does. Currently in the 5th position, the Upper Canada region driver in need of a little bit more service than he initially had hoped for, and certainly is going to put a dent into his race. I suspect it will likely not bear the finishing position that he had hoped for, and the finishing position that his speed has indicated at least up until this point this evening, because he's been a top 10 car all race long. But Radzitis with that long, slow ride down pit road, 45 miles an hour tops, as all these drivers come blitzing by on the front straightaway, and Radzitis is going to have to come into his box one more time to get fuel, get tires, and make sure that he can make it the rest of the way.
Unfortunately, that's going to cost him a lot, but let's see what he is able to do. He will have a little bit fresher tires in the rest of the field if he decides to pit for tires as well. Most drivers sometimes decide not to with just such a short sprint race format here tonight, only an hour long, as a couple of cars are coming out, as 386 of Bruce Robinson is having some issues.
Robinson very, very tight upon a little bit of the competition further up in the field. Andrew Elsom there with the 386, and those two running through the Ullman straight, making their way back towards the front straightaway. But now that we've got Liam Radzitis on pit road, it is time to bring you tonight's iRacing Midway Race Break, which is brought to you as always by iRacing, the world's leading online racing simulation. Developed from the beginning as a centralized racing and competition service, iRacing organizes, hosts, and officiates races on virtual tracks all around the world. iRacing is home to a wide variety of officially sanctioned series, with racing from the Australian Supercars, whose official championship started just a few days ago. The Cars Tour, over on our normal home, twitch.tv/Podium Esports, IndyCar, IMSA, NASCAR, the World of Outlaws, and more. William Levesque, trying to go 7-4-7, has the lead by 5 seconds over Gresham Wagner as we are halfway through tonight's season finale of Series 2 of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series from Sebring. Michael Podolsek runs in the 3rd position. John Koch currently holds down 4th. 5th belongs to Leif Peterson. James Patak runs in 6th. John Malia sits in 7th at the moment. 8th is Matthew Kikas. He's followed by Clifton Lipple in 9th, and then Dewey Kang in the 10th position. Currently
in the 11th position will be Michel Levesque, followed by Charles Yao in the 12th position. Jonathan Waltman will be in the 13th position, followed by Aaron Benoit in 14th. Joseph Stiefel is currently started from 24th, has gone all the way up to the 15th position, with Andrew Elsom from 29th all the way up to 16th. Bruce Robinson is currently in the 17th position, followed by Carlos Lopez in 18th, Michael Evans in 19th, and James Craig will round out your top 20.
21st is where Craig sits now. Michael Evans managed to get 20th. Shaibal Ben Yopantia sits in the 22nd position at this time. He's followed in the 23rd spot by the 44 of Alberto Fonseca out of the Pacific Northwest region. Francois Grayling runs in the 24th position at Sebring. Jonathan Patterson in the 63 car holds 25th at this time. 26 belongs to the 254 of Mark Hoffritz. Donald Bankley has the 30 car in 27th. Colin Thomas runs in the 28th spot, the number 16 machine. 29th is the 6 car Christopher Page, who has just been struggling after that incident coming out of turn 1 about a third of the way through this race. David Stewart has officially scored in 30th.
Kenny Brown is currently sitting in the 31st position, followed by Jonathan Schum in 32nd. Doug Metzel is sitting 33rd, and Michael Knighton rounds out your 34 car field.
That will conclude tonight's iRacing Midway Race Break. With over 80 laser scan tracks and cars to choose from and over 80,000 drivers on the service, iRacing is the original esports racing game. And for more information, you can visit iRacing.com today. This time we're going to take a quick break, but we'll go side by side to make sure we don't miss any of the action here from Sebring. But we'll be right back with more racing. Watching coverage of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series from Sebring International Raceway on the iRacing Esports Network. Welcome back to coverage of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series here on the iRacing Esports Network as Michelle Levesque pulls a very nice move to get around Dewey Kang in that 32 machine. And you may have noticed the lights are beginning to come on here at Sebring. And you don't have lights all the way around the racetrack, but there are points where you've got some of the track lighting and you can see the way the shadows run across these Porsche 911 RSRs as they make their way through this very venerable road course in Florida. Levesque currently runs in the 10th spot. He just got around Dewey Kane to get up to the top 10, and that is, without question, the closest battle on track, save for James Pataka, John Malia, 6th and 7th, but those two have been attached nose and tail just about this entire race.
They have putting on a great battle as they had an incident early on going into the hairpin, but have worked it out and continue out on the racetrack here. Malia still following right behind James Patak as they go down the Ullman Straight. Between the two drivers, Patak actually was a little bit slower compared to John Malia. A little bit of that damage to both of these cars might have hindered their speed just a little bit as they come off the Sunset Bend and get by the lap traffic of Francois Grayling.
So as those two work their way around Grayling, we'll remind you of the point situations for the battles that are still up for grabs as it stands. Third would go to Michael Polasek, who runs in third in this race. He would have the advantage over Lee Peterson, who would finish fourth in points. Then it would be, I believe, John Malia and then Matthew Kikas, fifth and sixth. So Malia would jump up one, Kikas would slide back one. Same with Polasek and Peterson. Polasek would jump up one, Peterson would slide back one in the final standings. Kenny Brown, Chris Pies. I don't know if we'll see any change on that. They came into the night tied. They're running right next to each other in 29th and 30th. And then you've got Brett Holmes and James Huth. And I believe Huth is the better off of those two at the moment.
Yeah, I believe you're right. Huth might be the better off right now, but we'll have to keep an eye, see what happens as we continue on.
Ask the booth.
As we turn our attention to another Ash the Booth. Ooh, this is a good one. The best driving song / band. There are a lot of really, really good directions you can go in this. However, I think I'm going to default my bias, at least as far as the song is concerned, towards Van Halen's Panama. There's a certain video from the 2000s that uses that extensively that really sort of nails down its character as a driving song. As for the band, I almost think you want a band that is a little bit more sort of jammy. You think of, Grateful Dead or the band proper as, sort of road trip groups where they can play for 20 minutes and just go crazy with it. And I suppose by some extension, maybe if you wanted to make an argument for some of the more operatic sort of prog rockers, I think of like Yes and Muse nowadays. If you need something that will just eat up that space of time, they're not too terrible either, but you definitely have to have a car-related song if you're going to go with the song. Something like I Can't Drive 55 or
Highway to Hell.
Yeah, Highway to Hell.
I would have to say that would be one of my top favorite songs to listen to while driving. And then, of course, a big band that I would prefer listening to would be Journey, of course. That's always a fun group to listen to when you're driving down the road.
Right. Of course, there's also the Beatles' Drive My Car, which I think is a very obvious candidate in this discussion, too, is it not?
Oh, I would definitely say that.
And also, one more note while we wrap up our Ask the Booth bit, or at least this particular Ask the Booth question, we'll remind you all that the Porsche Club of America hosts over 3,500 events annually across North America. Between the 10 national events and thousands of regional events, there's an event for every PCA member and Porsche enthusiast. PCA hosts autocross events, concours d'elegance, driver's education classes, driving tours, social events, and tech sessions. And for more information, you can visit pca.org/events. As the season begins to wind down here, we are within the final third of this race. Just over 18 minutes left to go on the clock before we bring the checkered flag down on Series 2 of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series. But there is more. There is more. Head over to simracing.pca.org. Series 3 has plenty of registration available. And if you liked the 911 GT3 cars, then you'll have a lot of fun. If you liked what you saw in Series 1, that GT3 is back. And it will run some of the shorter formats of some of the great road Porsches around the United States. Cisco has his points here for the Ask My booth. He's got the Allman Brothers Jessica, which I think most people know by now is the very famous / infamous theme to BBC's Top Gear. And he also wants to put a vote for Simon Garfunkel's Baby Driver, which is a bit of left field shot, but actually a pretty solid one at that. So credit to him on that. And maybe some people will use those songs when they put together their practice playlist when they start running their GT3s. Although, Taylor Burris, we'd be very remiss to not talk about the news that came out of Frankfurt last week, in which iRacing announced that there will be another Porsche coming to the service in the form of the Porsche Cayman GT4. How exciting is that going to be on a lot of these tracks?
I gotta say, I'm just excited that we're finally getting a GT4 car, and what better car than a Porsche Cayman GT4. Always been a big fan of watching GT4 competition, especially watching the Porsches battle it out, as we have a little bit of an issue going on right now through near Le Mans Corner. Colin Thomas has come to a complete stop out on the racetrack. Several cars had to avoid him on the racetrack, but he was able to continue on going through, but it's so far no damage, but several drivers had to make evasive maneuvers just to get by him.
Was very, very close there for a few drivers trying to make the way through. But you would think that that GT4 Cayman car would slide in naturally into the Michelin Pilot Challenge alongside the Audi TCR that was introduced here in the Q4 build just a few weeks ago at the beginning of September. I think there's a sort of natural challenge really between those two, since it is the Cayman GT4 that runs in the Pilot Challenge in real life and runs, I believe, I think is it Grand Sport? I forget Grand Sport and Grand Touring classes.
Grand Sport class.
Which is, I believe it's Grand Sport that has the GT4. Yeah, you can sort me out on that one, Taylor. But still, to see more road racing cars and I think more important pieces of the ladder just sort of fleshed out. Really, really good for iRacing, really, really good for Porsche. And I know that a lot of these drivers involved in PCA Sim Racing will be excited to get their hands with the GT4 when it arrives, because I know, having talked to a lot of them myself over the course of this series, there were plenty of folks who were clamoring for the Cayman GT4 to get onto the service. I think it may well have been the most popular requested car amongst PCA members who run in PCA Sim Racing. So a very welcome addition to this part of the community. And I'll admit, I'd be very surprised if we don't see it as part of a PCA Sim Racing series in the near future. But that's just a hunch. Sometimes my intuition is good, sometimes it's not. But I'd like to think that if I place a bet on this one, I'd be a pretty happy man.
Well, you know the old saying that goes, ask and you shall receive, and I'm pretty sure that the people at the PCA have heard what these drivers want, and I'm pretty sure very soon, maybe even sooner than you think, we may see those GT4 cars out on the track.
Also seeing that Chad actually has brought up more than a few other good candidates for the driving song question that we received. The Beach Boys have about 1 million of them from their early era pre-cut sounds that could have very easily slid into that category as a winner. And other bands too, Rolling Stones, Elton John, Sheryl Crow. The Chemical Brothers isn't necessarily one that I would necessarily expect, but I can see it. The Everly Brothers, also there too, maybe not necessarily the most famous, but also a band with plenty of good songs that would work in that case. But
well, you know, James, we actually had a couple that we talked about a couple of weeks ago involving California and a famous stretch of road.
Oh, do tell.
How about a little bit of Route 66?
This is true. This is very, very true. A little bit of Chuck Berry and/or John Mayer and/or name another artist that's covered that song at some point as we rattle along with Joseph Stifel and see what he's up to in this race. Stifel currently running in the 14th spot, trying to chase down Jonathan Waltman for 13th.
Jonathan Waltman a couple of seconds up, or a couple of car lengths up the road as they're going down the Ullman Straight. Waltman doing a great job after running some issues early in the race, but still has recovered quite well, currently running in 13th. But here comes Stifel to the bottom of the racetrack as they come off a Sunset Bend. Couldn't quite make a stick, has to wash up the racetrack and get right back behind Waltman as they come down the front straightaway. But that was definitely a send-it moment for Joseph Stifel, and let's see if he can try it again as they make the run into turn one.
Oh, that was full send. That was 1,000% full send from Stifel. The problem is that he missed the apex in turn one a little bit and will give a car length or two back to Waltman, but may well gain it all back coming into two. At a nice entry through that corner, and I think got through there a little bit quicker than Waltman did, who's sort of tiptoeing through the tulips in this slower section of the track before they get to the Big Bend and make their way down towards turn 7. That very tricky hairpin that has called out so many drivers over the course of the history of Sebring International Raceway.
Not far up the road from these two is Charles Yao in the 717 Porsche. He's coming out of the hairpin just in front of these drivers, has gained several positions after starting in the 16th position. So another great run for him tonight.
Keeping an eye on this battle, keeping an eye on John Malia and James Vertack, who are still together in this battle and still have managed to not really separate themselves, but at this point, I don't know if it's going to matter all that much because Malia's got to find a way to get to Peterson, but Peterson has got about 11 seconds on these two, so he would need to really put in some sort of stint or need a mistake from Peterson in order to have any sort of say-so in that shakeup of 3rd through 6th in points. Same for Peterson with regards to Michael Polasek, who is also a little bit further up the racetrack, maybe about 5-6 seconds. Not as big of a gap from Peterson to Polasek as there is from Malia to Peterson, but still, Peterson needs a Polasek mix-step, I think, at this point in order to have any shot of locking down 3rd. Otherwise, 3rd in this race and 3rd in the final point standings, I believe, should head to the 45, barring the unexpected.
Yeah, we'll have to keep an eye, see what they can do if the laps are winding down, closing in on 10 minutes left to go here on the clock here at Sebring International Raceway. And I gotta say, unless something happens to the top three, it's fairly safe to say that these drivers are going to finish where they are. But back to that battle between Joseph Stifel and Jonathan Waltman. Stifel was able to get by Jonathan Waltman. Great pass for him as he now pulls away from him and starts to close in on Charles Yao.
So Stifel is clear of Waltman and now has about a second to go to get up to Charlie Yao and see if he can get around the 717 to get into the 12th position, and then a big ways up to Dewey Kang in the 32, who has had a tremendous run tonight in the 11th spot. Maybe one of his best runs of Series 2, and right when he needed a good one, too, to make sure that he took over complete control of his spot in the points. I think it's almost a certainty now that Dewey Kang will finish in the 20th position and potentially in the 19th position if he can run down Doug Metzel a little bit.
Gonna have a little bit of work to do, but I'm pretty sure keeping on with how much time's left on the clock, anything is possible for them. So we'll have to see what they can do if they can catch up to Metzel.
They've already caught Metzel on the racetrack. It's more of the catching up to him in the points. Metzel.
That's what I was meaning.
Yeah. Metzel came into this race 7 ahead of Kang, and given that Metzel is currently scored in 33rd, and Kang is in line for a good points day in 11th, that may well end up being the tipping factor in all this that gets Kang up another spot, and who knows, might have the chance to go catch Mark Huth as well, because Kang was only 9 points back of Huth here. So you could see a pretty big jump for the driver of the number 32 machine. Charlie Yao, I think, will sort of block him and keep him going any further. Yao runs one spot behind Kang and has 15 points on Kang in the standings. So I think Yao has pretty good control in 17th, but there's certainly a few positions on the line for Dewey Kang here, and a good reward if he could jump up a few spots in the point standings after what has been a really, really strong run for Kang tonight.
Yes, indeed. Now, as the laps are, as we're continuing to see what Dewey Kane can do as he is working his way up through the field. Great run for him pretty much all night long. I mean, started way back outside the top 10 and has worked his way up in right at 11th position right now as he was battling with Michel Levesque, who started to pull away just a little bit from him now as the laps or his time is continuing to go down. Less than 10 minutes to go.
And it's within this sort of section of the top 10 that there are a lot of your hard chargers tonight. I believe Jonathan Waltman, plus 12, is your leader in that category. Currently runs in 15th, and we're starting 27th. But you look at everybody in here. Aaron Benoit started in 20th, runs in 14th, plus 6. Joseph Stiefel started 24th, runs in 13, plus 11. Charlie Yao up 4 spots from where he started, up into 12th. After running 16th, Dewey Kane currently in 11th after starting 14th. So a lot of really good runs for some of these drivers in here, which have come about, I think, more than anything else, just by making sure that they keep their cars clean and make sure that they don't run into trouble, like a lot of the drivers from 16th on back who are already a lap down.
And to be honest, that's probably one of the best strategies you can have involving in any form of motorsports is just trying to keep it on the pavement, keep it out of trouble, and you will get good results here. I mean, we see that with the majority of these drivers who have worked their way up through the field. I'm still impressed with drivers such as Andrew Elsom, who's gained over 10 positions since the start of the green flag run here. Already 1 lap down, but still an impressive run for him. Same thing with Bruce Robinson, who's gained 10 positions, started 26, has worked his way up to the field. Jonathan Waltman, who we talked about earlier, already up to the 15th position. So a great run for a lot of these drivers on the final race here tonight. This will be a good momentum builder as we get ready for Series 3.
Series 3, which is going to be a significant amount of fun, I suspect. That's just my hunch, but you look at some of the tracks that you're going to see in Series 3. We'll be kicking off on October 18th, going to Canadian Tire Motorsport Park to kick things off, and then you've got Lime Rock, you've got the West layout of Coda, you've got the Classic layout at Watkins Glen, and the short course at Road Atlanta. Some really, really good road courses to round out the year for PCA Sim Racing, and all will be seen here, same time, same place, 9:15 p.m. Eastern Time on the iRacing Esports Network. And of course, if you want to get involved with Series 3, simracing.pca.org/Series 3 is the place to go to enter, register, get all your information, and find out how to sign up for PCA Sim Racing with those GT3 Cup cars.
One driver who's trying to look forward and cap off the season on a high note is Joseph Stiefel. He is putting a lot of pressure on the back bumper of Charles Yao as they're coming out of Tower, making the run to Bishop, and get ready for another great battle here. Charles Yao doing a great job right now of holding off Joseph Stiefel. They've been holding up each other, battling for the past few minutes now, and doing a great job as they come to Le Mans Curve. Once more, again, Stiefel goes a little bit wide, almost touches the grass, but backs it off just to keep it going on the black pavement there. Going down the Ullman Straight, Charles Yao has pulled a significant gap over him as they're going down the Ullman Straight.
Had to pull the gap back just a little bit, but struggled to really nail down everything on quarter exit and gave up a tenth or two as they worked their way around lap traffic and sort themselves through Sunset Bend. That's Michael Knight into the 71 that they've just gotten past, but that actually allowed Charlie Yao to get a really good run down the front stretch, and will get the toe of Charlie Yao coming into turn 1. May have the chance to set something up in 2 as Yao didn't get the greatest of runs through the apex there. And we now are under the 5-minute to go mark. So in the last handful of minutes in Series 2 of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series.
And as we look up through the rest of the field, of course, it is still William Levesque, who has about a 16.5-second lead over the second place of Gresham Wagner. Talk about our top 3 just a little bit. Michael Polasek, though, not too far back. A little over a second separate the two drivers as we're closing in under 5 minutes to go here. So Polasek could maybe have something for Wagner before the checkered flag flies.
Certainly the potential there. It's down to a second, but we'll see what happens amongst those two within the final 5 minutes. Now 4 minutes of this race. Not too much left in the season. And if you're wondering about William Levesque, we haven't spent much time on the race leader because he's done what he's done for a good chunk of this series. It is gone off the front. It's a 17-second gap from Levesque to Gresham Wagner in P2. So all Levesque has to do is keep it in one piece the final few laps, and he is going to outright sweep every race in Series 2 of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series, an unprecedented feat that the 144 is on the cusp of.
Looking throughout the rest of the field, John Koch, of course, doing a great job, doing what he needs to do to finish in second in the points championship, sitting in fourth comfortably. No pressure at all from Leif Peterson, who's about 3 seconds back from him. And then, of course, that battle between Patak and Malia still going strong. Malia, though, not as close as he was earlier on in the race where he made that contact. But here he goes again now as they come out of tower. Patak makes a mistake. Malia is going to be on the outside looking in as they go through the next set of corners to set up through Le Mans curve. Malia, move him up to the 6th position.
And Malia finally gets around James Patak with a very, very small amount of time left. He's been working on that one just about the entire race, but finally gets it done in the last few minutes. And Malia now jumps up to 6th, which will help, but it won't be enough to get him up in the point standings the way he would like to be. Still have a good battle, though, with Charlie Yao, Joseph Stiefel. They're coming into the hairpin, and we'll just go nose to tail and sneak their way through here to make sure they don't end up in any sort of trouble. The same can be said about Aaron Benoit and Jonathan Waltman, who are also pretty close to one another. That's the final really good battle pack in this field, with now 2 minutes left to go, and a big dive from Waltman to get underneath Benoit. So Waltman now up to 13th, Benoit back to 14th.
Great power move by Jonathan Waltman to get by Benoit as they came out of the hairpin now. Great, and now going through Fangio. Let's see if Benoit can do something to respond to that. He's not going to be able to do it here as he backs off a little bit, and Waltman pulls away.
As we are going to, I think, in all likelihood, see the white flag for William Levesque next time by, and he will have one lap to claim all 7 races of Series 2 of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series. It is one thing to set that out as a goal. It is another thing to execute and actually pull that off. It is so difficult amongst this competition, and it will be worthy of a tip of the cap should Levesque come through the way we suspect he should and finish off this final lap of Series 2 of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series. He'll make his way through Sunset Bend for the penultimate time, come down the front stretch and get the white flag. One lap to go in Series 2 of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series, and it is all William Levesque at the front to the tune of 18.2 seconds over Gresham Wagner.
Talk about dominance right here. William Levesque. I've only seen this much dominance one other time before in GTE sports car racing, but still none other like this domination in this Porsche. The knowing of the talent and the skill, every which way to handle this powerful machine and be able to not only claim just about every pole this season, but also win every single race here. And William Levesque definitely has shown the skills all season long.
That'll be the one thing that I think he'll look back on with regret in the series, is that he didn't claim all the Fast Track Sims pole awards over the course of Series 2. And maybe the goal that he puts forth in order to really clean house in Series 3 in just a few weeks' time. But as it stands, I think he'll be quite happy with accomplishing something that I don't think we've seen in a lot of series of iRacing, to win every single race in a season. Really, really tough to do, no matter who you are.
And most definitely, looking at through the average finishes and results, the only one who's come close to the best average finish is John Koch, of course, who has a best average finish of 5th. So just shows you, even though that John Koch definitely was a great, incredible driver, wasn't nearly as close as the likes of William Levesque,
who comes down the Ullman Straight for the final time and into Sunset Bend for the final time. The last corner of the season for William Levesque as the lap car pulls over and he flashes the lights and brings it down the front straightaway to pick up his 7th win in a row, win all 7 races of Series 2, win tonight at Sebring International Raceway, and win the Series 2 championship of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series. William Levesque is your champion. Gresham Wagner is going to come across the line and bring it home in third. And Michael Polasek flashing the lights at excitement. He'll lock down third in points with the final spot on the podium tonight. John Coke came home in fourth. Lee Peterson making his way across the line. John Malia was able to gap James Patak a little bit, managed to put about 3 seconds on him after those two had raced so tightly for a good chunk of this event at Sebring. But they'll all come across the line in one piece, and now we wait on the likes of Matthew Kikis, Clifton Lipple, Dewey Kang, Joseph Steifel, and Charlie Yao to finish off this race.
Battle for Stifle is doing quite well as Dewey King is trying to close that battle. This is the battle for the final position in the top 10. Here comes Dewey King. He's starting to pull away now as they're going through the section. Here comes Stifle to the inside. Let's see if he's going to make it work. Nope, he does not have to back off, but he's going to send it once more. And almost a little bit of contact as before they hit to the Lamar curve. Once more time down the Ullman Straight. Can Dewey Kang have any response? No, he will not. He's got to try to find and dig deep here as they go towards Sunset Bend for the final time. But it's safe to say Stifle has an incredible gap over him.
Kang got incredibly tight coming out of Le Mans. Don't know what happened to the 32 machine, but it just would not turn and hit the apex as he came through the corner. And it looks like he's gathered it up a little bit, but just tried to send it in deep into Sunset Bend, and it won't be enough. So Joseph Stifle with the last lap pass to take over the 9th spot and go up one more spot in the final running order here. And then Dewey Kang brings it home, and I believe might be one of the last cars to finish things off here. I think that might just be everybody finished. And all of a sudden, there's no more racing to talk about tonight. Well, actually, there is a little bit, but Taylor, what are we going to do? There's no cars on the track anymore.
I don't know. Maybe we can get ready to talk to our race winner one more time this season, and of course, our champion now. And also do a full race rundown after these commercials.
I think that seems like a pretty good plan to me. So we'll go ahead and say our last commercial break of the evening. But as always, don't go anywhere. Interviews with your top finishers, full field rundown, and more coming up on the other side of this break. You're watching coverage of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series on the iRacing Esports Network.
Of the best sim racers, $100,000 on the line. Who will rise to the challenge? This is the most competitive and sought-after season in iRacing World Championship history. This is where legends are made. This is the Porsche Esports Super Cup.
Welcome back to coverage of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series from Sebring International Raceway in Sebring, Florida, where Series 2 of the PCA SRS is complete. And William Levesque has gone to victory lane for the 7th race in a row. He sweeps all 7 races en route to the Series Championship, including tonight's race and tonight's victory here at Sebring. At this point, we'll go through the full field rundown to tell you where your favorite driver finished, starting with Levesque, who wins number 7 in a row to take home the title. Gresham Winder was P2 this evening. Michael Polasek managed to jump Leif Peterson for 3rd in point by finishing 3rd in tonight's race. John Cook finished 4th in this race and 2nd in the final points tally. Leif Peterson was 5th. John Malia came up in the 6th position. 7th belonged to James Patak. Matthew Keekis finished in the 8th spot. 9th belonged to Clifton Lipple, and Joseph Stiefel up 14 spots. So the beginning of this race started in 24th and comes home with a top 10 finish at the end of the night.
Dewey King will come home in the 11th position, followed by Charles Yao in 12th. The first car 1 lap down. Aaron Benoit will come home in 13th with Michelle Levesque in 14th. Bruce Robinson will come home in the 15th position, followed by Jonathan Waltman in 16th. Andrew Ellison will come home in 17th with Carlos Lopez in 18th. Michael Evans 19th, and rounding out your top 20, James Craig.
21st belonged to Alberto Fonseca in the 44. Mark Hoffritz finished in 22nd. 23rd was the 30 of Donald Binkley, and Francois Grayling finished in 24th. 25th belonged to Colin Thomas. Chris Pies finished in 26th. 27th was Jonathan Shue. Kenny Brown finished in 28th. 29th was Jonathan Patterson, and Shaibal Banyopadhyay finished in 30th.
31st goes to Liam Razitis, followed by David Stewart in 32nd. 33rd goes to Michael Neiden, and rounding out your 34-car race is Doug Metzel.
And so, we turn our attention now to the champions. That is your full field rundown for tonight's race, and we bring in the man who has won 7 races in a row, William Levesque. Gets it done again tonight. And William, for a moment, it didn't seem like it was going to be as easy as some of the other races, just because you had your little off at the beginning of this race. So talk about what happened there and how you regrouped to get the lead back from Michael.
It was calculated. It was for the show. But no, I don't know. I just made a mistake. The rear kind of got loose on me a bit there, and afterward, well, I guess it was just a small bit of racing. So not much to say really. I was faster than the guys, especially at the start of the race, getting used to the conditions, and I was able to make it around Michael, and also not lose the position to Gresham initially. After that, it was as usual.
And it's all about the execution, and it's a point that we made right towards the end of the race. It's one thing to have this as a goal, and it's one thing to have the idea of sweeping all 7 races, but just the difficulty in executing and making sure that you actually follow through with that, especially when you know that you have the speed and the talent. Talk about the difficulty of just crossing the T's and dotting the I's to make sure that you go out and you accomplish what you set out to do.
Well, I mean, obviously, I've been doing it for quite a while, so I've got a lot of experience, a lot of composure under more stressful racing situations, I guess. So that helps a lot, because at the end of the day, you can have the speed, but it only takes one mistake, and you can be either 10 positions down or out of the race. So, it's all about composure and keeping your focus, not making mistakes at the end of the day, not just speed. So I think that's probably the hardest thing to get, because there's a lot of fast guys out there, but if they're not consistent, then it's all for nothing.
Fair and valid points across the board, which now allows us to expand the scope a little bit and ask you, first, what does it mean to you to be the champion of Series 2 of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series?
Well, it means I'm gonna have a pretty nice trip in a few months, I suppose. So that's nice. But no, it's obviously it's quite nice because there's a fair bit of exposure, from Porsche Canada and Porsche America. So I guess it puts my name out there a little bit. I don't know if there's going to be anything happening from that, but it's something, I guess.
Well, there is the matter of your day at the Porsche Experience Centers that are coming out. So I guess another sign question. You have any idea whether or not you'll be headed to Atlanta or Los Angeles?
I should be Atlanta because I'm in Eastern Canada, so it's closer. Still 20 hours away by car, so but I have the flight and hotel paid for, I believe. So and yeah, and the track is nicer. They have a really nice facility in Los Angeles, but at the end of the day, it's not Road Atlanta. So
Fair points, fair points. And the last question we've got before we let you thank everybody and turn it over to Jim Hemming with the PCA. Our tradition here at Podium Esports dictates that for any champions of our series, we must ask, what is your favorite sandwich?
favorite sandwich? Oh boy, like sandwich as in like your lunch at work, or sandwich as in like a burger or anything?
I would say more of the lunch at work time. I don't know if
Okay.
burgers count as sandwiches.
I'd say like I'm a bit torn between just the goal ham sandwich or the like chicken or turkey slice sandwich with some mustard. I prefer mustard.
The key here, though, is something with meat,
Yes.
which, in fairness, I'm very inclined to agree with you on. Those are three of my favorite sandwich meats as well. So, seems like we've got a pretty good sense of what makes a good sandwich. But as always, William, we'll give you a moment to let you say thank you to everyone who makes it possible for you and this number 144 team.
Yeah. SimuCube, SimLab, and iRacing. The guys at NX, my spotter for tonight as well. And my dad for getting me in the series, and finally you guys for the broadcast, all the guys at PCA and everyone who makes this possible. It's always nice to have more and more sim racing series, more exposure, more broadcasts, more ways to get noticed. So thanks for all that.
William, from everybody at Podium Esports, thank you for the kind words. Thank you for your time. Congratulations on your title. And at this point, we'll turn it over very briefly to the marketing director for the Porsche Club of America, Mr. Jim Hemming, who has the official championship presentation to our Series 2 champion, William Levesque.
Yeah, I don't know how I follow Best Sandwich, guys. But William Levesque, I'd like to congratulate you on your championship win for the PCA Sim Racing Series 2. Congratulations. It's a long 7-race series, and you are our first undefeated champion. So congratulations. It was great watching you drive those last 7 races, and we do appreciate your professionalism and what you've brought to our series. So, as James mentioned, you're the first in the championship, and your prize provided by Porsche Cars North America is a trip to the Porsche Experience Center, where you're going to have to dust off your passport, and we'll get a flight for you down to Atlanta and a hotel room. And what Porsche Cars North America is providing is a session in either one of their cars. You'll probably want to pick one of the GT3s because that's a choice, and that's kind of their flagship car down there. They also have a prize pack, and they have a lunch provided, and you'll have a really good time. They'll treat you very well. But I just want to say congratulations, and also congratulations to all the other drivers that came out for Series 2. And I think you guys make it look easy, but this is not an easy sport by any means. But we really hope to encourage other PCA members to come out and give this a try. And we got Series 3 starting to wind up, and hopefully everybody will come back out. But William, congratulations.
Thanks a lot.
And there is William Levesque, your winner of Series 2 of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series. And we turn it now from William to the man who finished P2 in tonight's race, Mr. Gresham Wagner, who is with R. Taylor Burris.
Here with Gresham Wagner. Gresham, great run for you today, finishing in the second position. Had a little bit of a battle with our champion, William Levesque, early on, along with Michael Polasek. Tell us how that battle went on for you guys.
Yeah, I made a little bit of a mistake in qualifying, so I was just trying to kind of ride it out there and let the race settle. But there was a little bit of shuffling there the first couple laps, and once I settled into second, I was just going to try to stay in Williams' draft. But I just made a few mistakes early on and everything, and I think about 2 laps before my pit stop, I had a cut course, and then I almost spun out. So when we pitted, Michael was about half a second behind me. So I guess I made a little bit of a tactical call to short fill by about a gallon to try to keep the track position over him and hope I got a gap through all the traffic and everything. But those last 7 or 8 laps, I was having to feel safe pretty hard, so it closed up there at the end.
It did indeed. You almost had a great battle for the last lap here shortly, but as we get ready to come to a close this season with these GTLM spec cars, how confident do you feel for the next season with the 911 GT3 Cup cars?
Not quite as much. They're way more of a handful. You don't have any of the aids or anything. A lot less grip, and it takes a lot more of finesse, I would say, to get them around the track fast. So I'm looking forward to it. But I think you'll see some shuffling throughout the field and who's fast and who takes a little bit more time to get up to speed. And I'm not quite sure what category I'll be in.
We look forward to seeing you next season in Series 3 and those Porsche GT3 Cup cars. Before we let you go, though, is there anyone you'd like to thank who helps you come out and race from week to week?
Like always, I'd just like to thank my friends. They watch every race, and they're the ones, when I'm not doing this for Friday night, all the rest of the days, I'm on iRacing practicing racing with them. So they keep me doing it and keep it fun.
All right. Well, Gresham, we look forward to seeing you at the next race in a couple of weeks' time, and congratulations on finishing second.
Thank you.
That's Gresham Wagner, who comes from P2 in tonight's race. And from Gresham, we turn now to Michael Polasek, who finished third in this race and managed to break up that tie from third to sixth and jump ahead of everybody to get third in the final point standings in Series 2. So, Michael, first and foremost, we mentioned it in the broadcast. There have been a lot of races where you've been caught up in someone else's mess, or you made some sort of mistake, and you've had a lot of finishes that haven't necessarily been reflective of the speed that you've had all season. So to have a race tonight at the end of the season where it really does all come together and you get a result that is as good as your car has been and as good as you've been tonight, how rewarding is that, especially in context of the way your season's gone?
It felt pretty good. I'm just kind of glad to get third. I really felt like I had second in me, but I just played it safe. I'll take the podium. There were more than a few close calls with lap traffic, let's just say. So I'm just glad my car's in one piece, no damage bill this time around. And I'm just glad to take home third.
And over the course of this series, we know that you learned a lot in Series 1 with the 911 GT3. What have you learned about this 911 RSR in Series 2?
Well, with Series 1, there was a lot less lap traffic to worry about, and there was a much smaller diversity of skill compared to Season 2. So really, you had to learn how to deal with all sorts of different driving abilities and drive around them. Also, fuel saving was a pretty big part, especially at Road America, and also a little bit here. Also, really, tire management's a huge one, because even though these cars are pretty durable tires, they drop off very quickly if you make one mistake, just like a simple lockup, or if you get sideways for a bit, that's putting you at a permanent disadvantage. So with this, it's just really about finding your limits and just driving to them as best you can.
And given that you picked up a lot of notes with the GT3 in Series 1, now that we're going back to it for Series 3, what'd you learn in that you're going to try and use to claim the top spot on the podium at the end of Series 3?
Well, Season 3, I'm not entirely sure about the details of Season 3. I know it's short tracks with a cup car, so I definitely think there's going to be a lot of tight, close quarters racing, so maybe I kind of have to throw out what I've learned about Series 2 and just default back to Season 1 and just kind of go like hell for every single race.
With a little bit of speed and a little bit of mastery, I suppose. So, before we let you go, Michael, as always, here's your chance to send your thank yous, your shout outs, and let everyone know who makes it happen for you in the 45 car.
All right. I'd like to thank my sponsors, as always, Grand Prix New York. They're actually opening a new track, I think, relatively soon, the next couple of weeks. So stay updated on that. I'd like to thank GT Hub for all the encouragement they've been giving me. I'd like to thank the PCA for putting on Season 2. It's been a lot of fun. Really enjoyed it. And I can't wait for Season 3. I'd like to thank the Northern New Jersey region. I really hope that this was definitely a promising result for the region. And if any Northern New Jersey iRacers are here, then please send me a message on iRacing or here or wherever. And I would really like to get you guys into the series. And I'd like to thank my family, as always, for walking me through every race. And I'd like to thank Tyler King for the amazing paint job that you see on my car.
Would think you'd be hard pressed to find someone to learn from better in the Northern New Jersey region than Michael Polisek if you are watching and interested in joining in the PCA Sim Racing Fun. So, Michael, from all of us at Podio, congratulations on your third place run tonight, your third place finish in the final standings, and we look forward to seeing you around in the not too distant future. Don't think it'll be too long before we see you once again.
All right. Thank you very much.
Michael Polisek comes home P3 tonight, and that leaves just one more driver to speak to. John Cook came home in the fourth spot just off the podium, but he finished second overall in the point standings for Series 2, and he is with Taylor Burris.
Here with John Coke. John, great run for you today all season long, finishing fourth, but claiming second place in the point standings. Tell us, how do you feel?
I feel great. I feel really good. Tonight, I just wanted to be consistent. I was very cautious. I knew I could wrap up second place with just a top 5 or 6 or something like that. So, that was my focus for tonight.
Well, you definitely did came prepared for this, coming home with that fourth place. Though, as we go forward to the next season with the Porsche GT3 Cup cars, what are you most excited for? What track are you looking for to try to maybe see if you can dethrone our champion, Michel or William Levesque?
Well, I actually am really looking forward to the GT3 Cup season. That was my car. That's the car I have the most experience driving. And I don't know that I do have a shot at beating William, but if I were to do it, I would hope it would be at my home track at Road America.
So a home track advantage for you. Looking forward to that. Well, before we let you go, as we conclude this season, who helps you from week to week? Who would you like to thank?
I just like to thank all the guys in the PCA that make this possible. Jim and Doug, Mike Knighton, everybody. I'm leaving out a lot of guys, but this has just been a privilege, and I'm really happy with the way that the season went.
Well, we look forward to seeing you next season, and congratulations on your fourth place finish and your second place finish in the points championship.
All right. Thanks, Taylor.
And that does it for all of our post-race interviews. And now I suppose we turn to the likes of Taylor Burris's final thoughts from Sebring.
All I can say is domination. William Levesque is truly a talent worth watching in any form, whether it be behind the wheels of these Porsches or just about watching him dominate all season on any track that we throw at him. We've seen time and time again that he, even though makes small mistakes, is able to capitalize and recover quickly to be able to claim victory. And that is why he deserves this championship. And all I got to say is I look forward to the Porsche GT3 Cup cars next season in only a couple of weeks' time. So not a lot of much of a break for these drivers, if I say so.
Not too much of a break at all, because we're not terribly far away from the beginning of Series 3. October 18th if you are curious, will be the first time that Series 3 takes the track. And incidentally, that's only 3 weeks from tonight. So a little bit of a breather for these drivers, but not much before we get back at it with the 911 GT3 Cup car to close out the year with racing at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, Lime Rock Park, Circuit of the Americas, Watkins Glen International, and Road Atlanta, or Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, if we are to be technical there. So a lot of really good tracks to come from that. And you can sign up for that at simracing.pca.org/series 3. But before that, we have an incredible amount, rather, of racing to come in that time span here with our events at Podium Esports. And it starts this Sunday night, September 29th, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, over on twitch.tv/Podium Esports. The Stock Car Challenge Series, powered by iRacing iFlag, returns to action at Interlagos. We go down to Brazil for our next race of the season with the cop cars and all the road course racing that they've been doing. And we'll be racing in the morning, so you should see some incredible visuals from Sao Paulo. Certainly will be a treat to turn into that. We've also got some drifting action for you coming up on October 5th, 1 p.m. Eastern. The Esports Drifting Association has their season finale from Mugello. Should be a big time amount of fun, I think. First Saturday of October, if you want to tune in, that'll be 1 p.m. Eastern time. And that'll be followed the next evening by the return of the iRacers Lounge podcast Oval Series from Dover International Speedway. The lone same day, same date race on the calendar as the real life folks, as the Cup Series will head there in the afternoon. We go there the evening of October the 6th, 8:30 p.m. Eastern on twitch.tv/Podium Esports. And then we've got the Gaming Drift Series from Autopolis in Japan. That next Saturday, October 12th, 3:30 p.m. Eastern, second event of their season. And all of this you will be able to find on twitch.tv/Podium Esports, the 24/7 home of the Podium Esports Network. Just a bit here to cover before we wrap up everything. We'll note 2 points from PCA. First, we'll give a call to the season-long Hard Charger Award. That is Carlos Lopez, who averaged a 6th place gain in each race. And a big congratulations to Carlos, who will be receiving one of the PCA grill badges and hood ornaments that have been so coveted by those members. He'll be getting one of those courtesy of the Porsche Club of America and the PCA Sim Racing Steering Committee. And also, honorable mention to Clifton Liffle, Charlie Yao, Doug Metzel, and Mike Knighton, who all picked up an average of 5 spots in the races over the course of this season. We'll also highlight the winner of the Mr. Clean Award for Series 2, the driver with the fewest average incident points per race, and that driver is James Patak, who's only had 4 incident points on average for all the races this season, which is wild to think about. So James will also be receiving the PCA Porsche badge from the Porsche Club of America and the Steering Committee. And Mark Huth was close. He came home second in that competition and averaged 5 points, 5 incident points per event over the course of Series 2. One more time that you'll get everybody back here in 3 weeks for the 911 Cup car when Series 3 of PCA Sim Racing Series comes to life from Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, 9:15 p.m. Eastern, here on the iRacing Esports Network. And should be a lot of fun, but we're going to take a breather until then. So, for everybody at the Porsche Club of America, everybody from the national office, from Vu Gwyn and Jim Hamig and company, down to Doug Atkinson, the steering committee of the PCA Sim Racing Series, and everyone at Podium Esports, John Theodore, Gary Sexton, DJ Lyon, and then Cisco Scaramuza, our producer, and Taylor Burris, my extraordinary partner in the booth, and everybody that's made this possible. It's been another fun series of PCA Sim Racing. We look forward to jumping back to the 911 GT3 Cup car in 3 weeks' time from Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. For everyone, I am James Pike, the voice of Podium Esports. Thank you so much for watching our broadcast of Series 2 of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series all season long. We look forward to seeing you 3 weeks from tonight for the season opener of Series 3 from Canadian Tire Motorsport Park.